Hi, welcome to the channel, a budget audio review. Now today is a video about replacing some bulbs, all the bulbs, the backplate bulbs and also the dial bulb in this Rotel RX-150a receiver. Now this may only be useful to someone that's actually got this receiver, but you may learn a few things along the way if you've never done this. That's, you may have a receiver that's pretty similar, or maybe just give you an idea of how to go about it in your receiver. So it may be of some help if you haven't got this receiver, but really solely this is for people that's got this Rotel 150a receiver. Now we're going to replace all the bulbs. So the first ones we're going to do, the first part of the video, is the dial bulbs, the dial lamps. These are the lamps on the back plate where all the station numbers are, and also the lamp for the tuning meter. So if we download the service manual for this particular receiver, we can find out here that the bulb we're looking for is a 6.3 volt 0.28 amp. So that's a 6.3 volt bulb and 280 milliamps. So we want to look for something like that. So if we do a little search on eBay, I found these are pretty close. These are just under, these are 250 milliamp. I mean, you can probably just go up to 300 milliamps just pushing it. There's 5 of them in there, so that extra 20 milliamps is going to draw an extra 100 milliamps if you combined all 5 of them. But best to try and keep it within spec really, or just maybe just a tad under to play safe. So yeah, there we go. We've got 250 milliamp. These may just be a little bit less brighter than the 280 milliamp ones. It's up to you. And these are 6.3 volts. You'll find them on eBay that they do different voltages, different milliamps you can choose from. And these are 31 millimeter in length, and these are kind of like the old-fashioned filament type, like an old-fashioned bulb kind of thing. Now also you can get these LED replacements. These are going to draw just a little bit less current, so these are great. They can be pretty bright as well, and they do these, and these are going to last a lot longer as well. These do these in white, warm white, green and blue, I think the colours or thereabouts anyway. These are 30 millimeter in length, so that extra, well, that 1 millimeter less, should I say, is going to make no difference whatsoever. What I will say, if you're going to put these in, as you can see, the yellow front of them there are actually LEDs. That's where the light's going to shine from, and if you have that facing directly on, directly facing your plate, your numbers plate, your dial, or your VU meter, or whatever it is, it may be just a tad too bright. I find they can be really bright sometimes, so you may just want to turn that bulb around a little bit while it's in the housing to try and get the brightness level that you like. So just bear that in mind. Okay, now to get this receiver bulbs replaced, what we're going to do is we're going to face it face down, and we're going to undo 6 screws holding the back plate in. As you can see, they're all shown with the yellow arrows. I've took 3 out already, and 3 more are pretty much hanging out. So once we take them out, there's the back plate, and we're going to remove the back plate. Now we're going to put the receiver top down, so the bottom of it's facing up, and we're going to undo these 4 screws here that's holding the receiver into the cabinet. So once they're undone like so, we're going to just pull that housing, that cabinet, whatever you want to call it, away from the receiver itself, and there is the receiver with the cabinet completely discarded and moved out the way. What we're going to do now is flick it over, and we just got 2 screws. This is going to be pretty similar. You're going to have a couple of screws holding some aluminium housing, like the reflecting panel, etc., holding all the bulbs. You're going to have a couple of screws, 2, 3, 4 screws, something like that on other units, but on this particular unit just 2 screws. So we're going to undo them. As you can see, I've undone the one on the right hand side, just the left one's done to do, and the left one's undone now. So that, just gently remove it out, just pull it out gently. As you can see, I've got 4 bulbs already in there now. I've left one undone just to show you something here, just in case that you couldn't download the manual and you're not too sure what bulb to replace this with. Sometimes if you dig out the old bulb and put it underneath a magnifying glass or something like that, around the silver part etched in it will be maybe a value and the milliamps. You may be able to read that. If you can't, or hasn't got it on there, another way of doing it is by putting a meter, and in this particular case this is on AC. Most of these units are AC for these bulbs, so we put the meter on AC, and I've got the other 4 still connected, and as you can see it's 5.9 volts. Now that's with a load. If I undo all the other bulbs, it actually goes up to 6.1. So it's going to give you a very, very close idea of what voltage the bulb's going to be. And if you're not too sure, just go a bit low on the milliamps, maybe 200 or 250 milliamps, look something like that, and you should be all right, I would have thought. So yeah, obviously replace the bulbs that they're replacing, either with LED or the filament type, and it's just pretty much put it all back together as you undone it, and you'll be good to go. But if you want to actually replace the little dial, the little needle bulb in this particular unit, and it'd be similar probably on a Marantz or some other unit, something like that, use just a little miniature kind of bulb. I'm going to show you how to do that in this next segment of the video. Okay, now on to replacing the FM stereo indicator lamp. And as you can see, looking at the manual, this is 14 volts at 50 milliamp, and this is about 4 or 5 millimeters in diameter. So we're looking about for a 4 or 5 millimeter one. It should fit in there. It's got a little bit of give in the actual housing, but yeah, maybe if you take your one out and have a proper measurement if you can, because you don't want to get it too big because it can be a little bit tight in there. But this has got like a little bit of rubber in there, so it expands a little bit. So anyway, we'll look at this particular bulb here. This is what you're looking for. Now, it may not have a long enough lead to actually go in the circuit where you want it, because this is quite a lengthy lead on this, because the little dial goes up and down the gangway, and so it needs quite a bit of lead to go backwards and forwards and actually get connected in the circuit. So to connect this, you may actually have to cut the wire that's already on the board or coming from the board and join it up yourself, or you may be lucky enough to get a long enough lead one. So just bear that in mind when fitting this bulb. Okay, to fit it, we're going to turn the unit up so it's facing upwards, and we're going to undo these 2 screws here that's holding the front faceplate on. We're just going to flick it over, and we're going to undo these knobs here that's also holding the faceplate on. The faceplate won't come off without removing these knobs. As you can see, I've already undone 2, and there's still 4 more to go, and that's with them all removed. Then we're going to flick it over so it's face down and undo these 2 screws here. And once these 2 screws are undone, as you can see, the actual faceplate will start coming off, and that's it, completely off. And this is where we're going. We're going to this little dial here. Your dial may be slightly different if you're looking at a different receiver, maybe just on top of it rather to the side of it, where the bulb's going. It may be just in a slightly different place, but it gives you some kind of idea of what we're working with. And obviously this video is for this particular receiver. We can see another angle here, looking straight down at it, and you can see the 2 wires going into where the bulb is. This is the wire here, as indicated by the yellow arrow, so we're going to follow that wire onto the circuit board, and that's the first connection there. And if we follow the wire, it actually goes through the actual chassis to the other side to this particular point here. So if we just zoom in on that, that's where the wire goes there. And just for a matter of interest, if you didn't know the voltage of this bulb, what you can do is connect a meter up to them 2 points, put it on DC, because this is actually DC now. It's going through the circuit in the receiver, through the FM circuit, the tuning circuit, etc., and that's DC. So we put our meter on DC, and what you need to do here is actually tune it into a station. So be a bit careful as you're doing this, because we need that bulb to be lit up. So we can actually measure the voltage. We want it as bright as possible. As you can see, the tuning meter there is on number 8 or near enough, so it's got quite a strong signal. The actual indicator is lit up because there's actually nothing wrong with this bulb. I'm just showing you how to replace it. You can see there it's quite a bright orange there on the dial, and it's measuring 14.92 volts. So we know it's about 14 volts thereabouts. So if you've got a bulb 14 volts, low milliamp one, 30, 40 milliamp, 50 milliamp, something like that, you shouldn't be far too wrong if you don't particularly know your bulb required. So what we're going to do, we're just going to unclip this wire here, so we've got a little bit more movement. That's unclipped, and just showing you from a different angle. What we've got to do now is actually release this pointer from the actual gang string. As you can see, it's kind of bent over a couple of times there. So what we're going to do is mark it first of all, so when we come back to put it back in place, it's going to go exactly where it come off. So what I've done here is put a black felt pen each side of it, So when we take it off, we know exactly whereabouts it's going to go when we go to put it back. So I've undone it now, I've unclipped it, and it slides off the end here, off this end here, and it'll come undone completely. And there it is. I've actually undone the black case in there. You can see the bulb going in to kind of like a rubber kind of grommet. Be a bit careful, that grommet can be, you know, can deteriorate and kind of break up a little bit. So, you know, if that's the case, you may have to put a bit of glue or something else in there to hold it in position once you put your new bulb in. As you can see, I've took the bulb out. This bulb's working fine, but I'm just showing you how it breaks up. You know, it's quite old now, so you may just have to use a bit of glue to wedge it back in there in place. This is another angle of that particular dial pointer. There's the bulb kind of half hanging out, just to show you how it slides in there. And there it is. I've refitted it so it's back in the actual unit. So now it's fitted, what we're going to do is pretty much put it back to where it was, because my bulb was fine. But if your bulb wasn't fine, what you may have to do is actually find on this lead here that's coming out of it, if I just show you this picture here, somewhere along this lead where it goes from the bulb to the circuit board, you may have to kind of like cut it and do a joint if your lead's not long enough to reach where it's got to go on them 2 points on the boards, 2 different boards, one underneath the chassis and one on top. If your lead's not long enough, then of course it's not going to be able to wire it in there, so you're going to have to cut the lead that's already there, say halfway or something like that, and actually make the 2 connections. It doesn't matter which connection goes where, just put one wire to one part and one wire to the other, so it doesn't matter which way round. Even though it's a DC bulb, it doesn't matter. Sorry, the bulb isn't DC, the actual voltage coming off is DC, but as it's a bulb, it doesn't matter. Now it would matter if we were going to replace that bulb, say with an LED, which we could do, but we're not going to do that in this particular case here. So you can wire that bulb either way round, cutting the wire and joining it up with a bit of black tape, a connector, a bit of solder, something like that, and obviously making sure there's no bare wires, etc. So once that's all done, it's just a matter of reversing it, like reclamping the wire back in position. And if we turn it on now, as you can see, that's all the bulbs, the tuning indicator lit up, and the actual main front dial lit up as well. And this is just a picture here of it actually turned off without any bulbs lit up, so you can see what it would be like in the dark. So that's it really. I think pretty much wrapped that up there, changing the bulbs on this Rotel TX or RX-150a Receiver. So I'll say thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon in the next video.